welcome once again, people of the YouTube. We promised we'd do a Q&A type video, so this is what this is, and hopefully you will enjoy it. A couple of questions in there. Some of them are quite a lot about welding, and one has asked, we'll come to it, about will I do a welding demonstration type video. So when we come to that, we'll ask your opinion on that, leave your comments to see whether you think that's a good idea I do that or not. So before I start though, the first thing I would like to say is a big thank you to Russell Lord. Some of you may have seen his channel and seen he put up a short post to say how much he enjoyed my channel. I was blown away by that. I didn't expect that at all, especially when I'm a fellow with his talents. So if you haven't seen his work, check out his. It's simply Russell Lord. He's a jeweler, a London jeweler, and he's made a scale replica of a Mark II Escort. I'll try and put a picture of it if I can find one off his channel. And all from silver, gold, and precious jewels. And it's worth, I can't remember off the top of my head, I think it's somewhere around the 70 grand plus, and then donated it to charity. And he's now building a Mark I bubble arch replica. Detail of his work is exquisite. A very talented chap, and for him to say that he enjoyed my work and thought I was talented, I am humbled by that, because his work is next level. I mean, exceptional. So, you know, the guy's really top level. So I'm very humbled. Thank you, Russell, for your comments. It was very kind of you. A couple of other channels that I follow, and I'll explain why in each one. The obvious one is Fitzy's Fabrications. I've mentioned him on a few occasions, but his work, if you've seen his welding skills and what he does with very, very basic tools, is very, very clever. You know, so I've learned a lot from him, and you'll recognise a lot of what I do is basically what I've learned from what he does. So, and I'm not going to pretend it's my knowledge; it's all him. So watch him. Another one which I mentioned on the video when I did the rear quarter there is Carter Auto Restyling. Now it's him that I got the idea to do the sort of tab and grind welding from. I learned that from him. So Carter Auto Restyling. Go check out his channel. The next one, Bad Obsession Motorsport. These guys are nuts. They're certifiably lunatics. They're taking, or have taken, the project is now mostly complete, a Toyota Celica 4x4 turbo, so a real beast of a car, and an Austin Mini, base old school classic Mini, and made one mental Mini out of the two. Go check out what they do. They're very funny, very clever in what they do, and very watchable. Next one, Sid's XR3i restoration. Now Sid comments quite regularly on my channel, and I comment on his channel. He doesn't have a lot of followers, which is a shame, because what he's doing is great. He's just a normal fella like I am. In fact, Russell mentions this in his video. Do I do what I do for a profession? No, I don't. This is a hobby for me. The same as Sid. It's all a hobby for him. Go check out what he does. So that's Sid's XR3i restoration. Next one is Urchfab. The fella's name escapes me on who runs this channel, but he's also very clever. He's currently building a Mini, and I started following him because he was building his Ford 100E when I built mine, and he's grafted a Ford 100E shell onto MX5 underpinnings. So then MX5 floor and running gear and shell on the top, and it's a piece of art, and it's really good. So watch him if you don't already. Got to shout out his channel, Sam Yade Adventures. Go check that out. And Retro Rebuild, another guy who's quite funny to watch. He's restoring a classic Viva. I'm not entirely sure he's not entirely unhinged either. On one of his videos, he had so much hassle getting a bolt off his car, he went through the effort of taking a bolt and driving it to the harbour and throwing it into the harbour and videoing the whole thing just to show how upset he was about this bolt. So he's quite a funny guy to watch. And again, just a normal guy. He's muddling along with his Viva, and he's very open, very humble. He really doesn't know what he's doing, but he's having a go, and big thumbs up to him because another classic car is being rescued. Okay, so that's that bit over with, and now Aid has got a list of questions that you guys have asked, and hopefully we'll be able to get through them and be here again.
Maybe not so unhinged though. It seems to be a running theme with mechanics working from home. So, okay, so the first one is, do you have, this is from Malcolm I'm gonna have to edit this one out because
He can't read my writing. It's not that bad. Malcolm Piot, I think that is Piot.
yeah. Oh, that's a P, is it? Okay.
That's a P, yeah.
All right. I can't read. Okay, Malcolm Piot, do you have a completion date?
Yes, it'll be completed on a Wednesday.
Brilliant. Okay. Okay, so we've got quite a few welding questions now. Bike dealer for you, also known as Steve. Question 1. What size MIG wire and why?
This is a common question. I use 0.6 MIG wire, and for the reason is if I use 0.8, you need too much heat in 0.8 for thin metal like this, and you just blow holes. And if you try to turn the welder down because you're blowing holes, you just pile the weld up on itself and doesn't penetrate properly. I have no wender trouble with 0.8 wire. I do have a reel here as a backup when I run out of 0.6, and I curse every time I use it. So 0.6 is the way forward for me.
Again, a couple of others asking about MIG wire. You've got Martin Maxwell, Andy Cook asking, again, what size MIG wire? Now, you're saying about the 0.6. I'm assuming, is that just for the body panels, or is that for like the chassis legs and rails as well?
0.6 up to, in my experience anyway, is 0.6 is good for up to sort of 1.52 mil at a push. Anything higher than that, up to 0.8.
Right.
Because you can really crank the welder up, and you've got the. Otherwise, you can still use 0.6, but you've got to crank the wire speed right up so it can keep up with it. But the thicker the metal, the thicker the wire.
There you go. Again, another one from Steve. Any difference in brand wire?
Not that I've noticed. I used to get my wire from Halfords, and still do if they've got it in stock, or I'll order it off eBay and whatever comes. I can't say if I've noticed any difference in brand.
That's fair. Again from Steve. Do you have your voltage as low as possible?
Now that is a very good question. No, it's a short answer, because if you have the voltage too low, you'll have the same problem as you do with the 0.8 wire. And we're trying out new microphones, by the way. So hopefully the sound quality is going to be much better. If not, we're going to have to redo this altogether. What was the question? I forgot.
Do you have your voltage as low as possible?
Voltage too low, yes. Yeah. Okay, so if the voltage is too low, the heat won't penetrate in, and the wire just build up on itself. So when I'm doing thin metal, the voltage is about halfway on my welder. And the wire speed goes up a little bit as well with it. So, if you're too low, you you give yourself problems. So practice. The only way to know for definite, which is the best way, because again, the question I ask a lot is what setting to your wires is your welder set at. The only way you can do that is practice and see which works best before you start working on your car. Get some thin metal together and fiddle about with the welder and see what works for you.
Okay, so we're going to jump out of the welding questions for a minute. Ant Mark II Dreaming, brilliant name by the way, Ant. Does it rain in every video you do?
Good question. Only rains here on every day.
Between January and December, you heard it here first.
Yes, you notice it rains here a lot. Yes, it rains constantly in Wales.
Yeah, the people aren't joking. It's a thing. Okay. Going to Mike N. He's also asked what MIG wire size you use. He's also asking what gas.
Yeah, that's a very good question. We got pinged a video by his brother, my other nephew, Ray. Hello, Ray. From Ed China. And he goes in quite a lot of detail about welders and welder settings and what gas to use and what gas not to use. Which is all well and good. And he knows better than I do. There's no doubt about that. So this is by no means a diss to Ed China. Respect to the guy. But in my humble experience, in what I do, gas, CO2 gas, and a CO2 bottle from a brewery works just fine. I had no issues with it. I've not tried. I say this with a caveat. I've not tried argon mix. So on his channel, he says that argon mixed with 5% CO2 is best for thin metal, 10% CO2 for slightly thicker. Then I think it's 20% CO2. Don't quote me on that, but rough figures for even thicker metal again. But I find pure CO2 works great. No issues with it at all, and it's a lot cheaper.
Okay, another one from Fink, F-I-N-K. What MIG welder and why?
Okay, it's a good question. I use the Artec in this, then I'm in no affiliation with Artec, and if Artec are watching this, please send me some stuff, because your stuff's brilliant. Artec 180 welder. I used to use a Sealy 130 XT, I think it was. Aggregate one. It was alright, it was a good welder back in the day, but it was the old transformer type. The transformer type welders have got a couple of problems. One, they're not very switchable. You've got high, low, and you've got 1 and 2, and you can never get a perfect setting on them. It's either too hot or too cold. And around tea time, when the electrics coming into the property aren't as good because everybody's got their kettle on and the electric cooker and watching soap operas, the electrics does change into the property, and that definitely affected the welder, because it'd be welding fine. Come tea time, it'd be the Artec welder, because it's newer technology and it's inverter technology, doesn't suffer with that. Not that I've noticed yet, anyway, at least, and is infinitely variable on the controls. So you can have infinite control on the wire speed and infinite control on the voltage setting. And boy, has it made a difference to my welding. So if you're looking at buying a welder or updating your existing welder, inverter welder is the way to go. And I can nothing but praise for this Artec one. I'll put a picture up.
Which goes on to David Green's question. What welder settings for thin metal?
Yeah, hi Dave. Yeah, it's $1 million question, because you can only, on my setting, what I find on mine is with my welder, both on sort of 12 o'clock for thinnish metal, and I sort of hover around there, and I find that the wire speed and the voltage setting, if I mirror them there or thereabouts, it tends to work quite well. But again, the only way to know for definite is to practice and have a go yourself with different settings, and work up from low to high and record what you're making note of what your settings are, and then you'll find that the Goldilocks setting for you.
I think that's a key thing as well. What works for you as well?
Yes, yeah, because the electrics coming into my house are different to the electrics coming into your house. Although it should be 240 volts at 50 hertz, if you check that properly, you guarantee it's not. You might be getting 230 volts, you might be getting 250 volts. It's never perfect. In different times of the day, like say with tea time and what have you, the voltage does change, and that does affect the welders.
Okay, so we've got the BMW 1200 GSA. That's a name.
Bike, I guess.
Where did you get the rotisserie from?
Yeah. We made that. We like making stuff. Yeah, we've got a video on that, because he does go on to ask if I did make it myself, will I put a video up? Well, hopefully you've seen that by now. Yeah, we've got a video on that. We'll put a link to that in the
up here somewhere,
up in the void somewhere. And it's been brilliant, because this is a whole jig thing. If you go back to the beginning of the videos, you'll see I've got this car bolted down to the jig originally. Yeah, so been brilliant. Wasn't particularly difficult. In fact, there's my plans for it. So it's quite easy. I was half of it.
That's all right.
Coffee
It's now mixed with coffee. Richard Monfield, will you do the bodywork and paint yourself? If so, what colour?
Good question. Right, what I've learned over the years, I've paid to have a car painted. The said Lancia Monte Carlo. I paid a guy to paint that, and it was a very nice finish. Beautiful car. Look, the bee's knees. I was afraid to use it. I'm still undecided what I'm going to do with this, if I'm honest. White, it's definitely going to go white. That's very definite. And probably blue RS 2000 stripes, which is, I quite like stripes on cars. But this is definitely a possibility. Combi colour, Rust-Oleum. It's very easy to use. It's not rust resistant. I point that out. And I have no problem with combi colour Rust-Oleum coming on to me and saying that that's a lie, but it's not. In my experience, it does not hold back rust. So I've painted a few cars with it. Notably my camper van that I had with a roller. and it goes on lovely. You can work with it if you're patient with it. You can get quite a nice finish with it. Lots of videos on YouTube about how to use it, but it is not rust resistant. So if you're tempted to use this to hold back rust, don't. The only one way to hold back rust is one, cut it out, and two, 2-pack epoxy, good quality 2-pack epoxy. So what I may do is 2-pack epoxy it and then roller this on. But I may yet get it painted properly. So I don't know is a short answer on that. But so watch your space.
Fair enough. So Jeff Childers, are you going to put hard coat under?
Undercoating.
That said, that does not say coating. Okay, Jeff Childers, are you going to put hard coat undercoating in the welds or something else?
Right, something else.
Okay.
And this is something else, Gravitex. So this is pretty good stuff. You buy it, it's cheap enough. It comes with a gun. You have that in there, warm that up, because it's better off, works better if it's hot. So shove that in a bucket of scalding water, have that in there, connect that to your compressor. So I obviously 2-pack epoxy everything before, and all this covering on here is all temporary, just to hold back the worst of the rust. I'll be cleaning it all off, 2-pack epoxy, then this, then top coat.
Okay, William McKnight, what motor is on the bead roller?
The bead roller motor is quite a simple thing. It's a 12-volt winch motor for like you off-road guys who stick a winch on the front of their off-roaders, their Land Rovers and what have you. It was cheap enough, less than 100 quid. I stripped that down and I made a roller for the motor for the roller, and it's worked a treat, I've got to say. It's again, not my idea. It's something I've robbed off YouTube as an idea, and I've also made a video of me doing that. And I've sort of tried to make it as simple as possible, and it's been brilliant. It's so much more usable with that.
Ant Mark II Dreaming again. Ant, where do you get your sheet from? Your sheet metal?
Okay, sheet metal. I've also learned over the years, buy the biggest pieces you can buy because it's more cost effective. So I buy it in 8x4 sheets or 1200 by 8. Oh, what's 1200 by 2400 mil sheets. My local supplier, I got 2 sheets actually behind you where the camera is now. I got 2 sheets, 1.9, one 1.2 mil or thereabouts, just less than. Both sheets cost less than 100 quid. Now, that's gone up in price quite a lot recently, like everything else has. It used to be about 20 quid, 30 quid a sheet. But still, at 50 quid a sheet, it's still a lot cheaper than buying it piecemeal from B&Q or 2x4, 2x2 sheets from
eBay. Yeah.
So if you've got a big project on, buy a big sheet. You'll be constantly fighting surface rust with it, because unless you keep it in your house, which your missus might have something to say about that. But simply grind it off and work with it. That is the best way to buy sheet metal.
Yep, I agree. And I'm just saying, mine is in my house. Don't tell Sammy. Sammy, don't watch that bit. Ignore. Okay, so we've got a couple from Mick Tuck. What is your most challenging fabrication?
Now, this is a good question, Mick. I don't know. It's the short answer. I've not really done anything that challenging, not in my view anyway. Not like I've made anything huge. I think the most challenging thing I've done is not car related. Did a loft conversion in my house. This jig was quite challenging, I guess. Quite a lot of patience went into that, with setting it up, making sure it was all dead square and level before we started hard bolting the card to it. But I don't think I've done anything particularly outstanding, if I'm honest. I think really not like I've built something to help NASA or anything like that.
Now coming from a non kind of fabricating hobby, me, I'm more into fish tanks or electronics, that kind of thing. We will show you a picture of this little go-kart that you built for the girls years and years ago, wasn't it? As a project. Now I find that as a very interesting fabrication, so we'll send you a picture of that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Aid.
That's probably one of my favourites that I've seen Dave do. Another one from Mick Tuck. What is the most pleasing job that you've done?
Most pleasing job was probably completing the Lancia restoration. It took me 6 years to do that. That was my first big. I pushed about with a couple of smaller ones. I recently put on my Instagram. Follow my Instagram, by the way, if you don't already. Dave's Garage on Instagram. We'll put a link in. I recently put a picture up on that of my very first car, which was also a Lancia HPE, which I sort of light restoration, you might say, on that. It needed a bit of welding, but I certainly learned to weld on that. But the first big restoration I did was the Lancia Beta Monte Carlo, and I learned an awful lot on that, and that was a proper back to bare metal nut and bolt job. So yeah, I was very pleased when that came. And the crowning glory was for that. When I took it to my first car show, I got second in class. I was quite pleased with that. No, might even be second. It wasn't first, but I got the car first. Was a very nice baby blue Alpha Spider. So I was happy to come second at that.
Well, it's definitely a morale booster to keep you going, isn't it? Definitely. Talking about morale, it's not on the sheet. Now, something that I personally struggle with, and I'm pretty sure a lot of YouTubers out there struggle with. I know we've had conversations about this. Motivation.
Yeah.
Well, what are your tips? I mean, you're definitely. I mean, anything like you guys out there. I have 1,000 projects in my head that I want to do. I'm probably halfway through one.
Yeah, motivation is, and you will lose, and I do lose motivation on projects. And funnily enough, coming back to the Lancia Monte Carlo project, I completely flatlined at that about 2/3 of the way through it. And it was my wife, Claire. Hello, Claire. It was her that gave me this tip. She said, just go into the garage and do something. If it's just go in, sweep the floor, have a quick tidy up, just do something. Why? Because you're in there, you'll start on something else. And she's spot on. Absolutely spot on. Even if you do just a little bit every time you go in your garage or on your project, just focus on a little bit at a time. And it's amazing how much gets done by doing that. So rather than thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to do all this and I've got to do all that, and getting overwhelmed by it, just focus on the bite. No, the thing about bite size for kids doing their exams and that. It's really true. Just a little bit at a time. All of a sudden, that big bit is done, and then that bolsters you to go along again. YouTube helps as well, by the way. Knowing I've got to come in and make content, it's also giving me motivation.
Say, you guys are Dave's motivation.
Yeah, you are, and that's no joke either, because your comments and the lovely things you say about what I do, and from my point of view, all I'm doing is bodging in my garage. Honestly, that's exactly all I think it is. I'm just in here potching about. But you guys really enjoy it, and I'm humbled by that, and that also gives me motivation to come and bodge further.
Yeah. Again, Dave doesn't see what we see. You know, like I said, I'll send a picture of this go-kart in a minute. So we've got a couple of final questions then from James Patterson. We'll going back into the welding thing. His first question is how do you go grinding welds?
Okay, this, I don't have a particular set thing for this. Mostly it's whatever's closest to hand, if I'm honest, because I'm a bit of a lazy kid. But usually I found flap discs put too much heat into a panel, although I have started using it on this dab grind thing, because the heat in the panel is actually part of the process that helps with that. Grinding stone just to knock the heads off works well. And I've also, somebody just recently commented, did we put his name down on there? I don't think we did we? Oh, you'll know who you are anyway, so I'm sorry I haven't got your name to hand. That I should think about using using a DA sander with 80 grit and finishing off the welds with that. So I'm definitely going to start trying that out, because they've said that, and I think others have commented on this along these lines as well, that I'll get a better finish on the weld and it will take less material off. So that's, watch this space. I'm going to start trying that as well. But I don't really have a set process for doing it. It's pretty much whatever's in the grinder at the time, mostly.
Definitely noticed that your grinds and even your welding's changed from when we started the front of the car. So as you come in here, I think, you know, even though you're on car restoration, 6 now, something like that.
Yeah.
You're still learning, really,
yeah.
Especially from you guys are helping out with tips and tricks.
I got to say, doing this YouTube channel has helped massively, because you guys commenting and the tips you've given me has moved me along with my knowledge as well. And that was go back right back to day one when I started the channel. That was my intention, was I'll show you what I do and what I've learned, and you guys tell me what you've learned and what your comments are and what you think. And that's working really, really well. And I have learned a lot from your comments.
So the last question we have, again from James Patterson, are you interested in doing a MIG welding beginner's guide?
Right, okay, so back to the first question. The first we intimated on this. Well, that's up to you guys. If you think you'd enjoy that, because there's lots of other videos on YouTube about MIG welding. There's thousands of them. So honestly, I don't think I'm going to teach you any more than what you can already find out. But if you guys would like me to do that and show what I've learned from MIG welding and how I do particular things, then comment on it. And if we get enough comments to say, yeah, we'd like that, then yeah, why not?
Great.
And this brings us to this, which he's been curious
about.
I
keep looking at it.
Okay, so hopefully you'll see that. You'll see that's MIG wire. Now, when you change MIG wire, and when I've changed MIG wire, you have to run off. You got a piece about this long, which goes to waste. Annoys me. I hate waste. I hate chucking stuff away. So what I've started doing, and although I haven't displayed me using it, I have used it on the project, is wrap it up, sort of fold it up 4 times. So there's 4 folds in that. Stick one end in the vise, stick the other end in the drill, twist it up so it's nice and tight. You get this. This makes a really good filler rod for when you're welding and you've got a gap, you need a bit more extra weld. Dab this in, is like you would with it if you're TIG welding. So it's like MIG TIG, if you like. Works a treat, and it stops it going to waste. So this is better than sometimes I've used bits or offcuts of like that to do it. But this works better because it is actually proper MIG wire. It's got the nice coating on it, which helps things flow a bit better. Copper coating on it, which helps the flow better. So it stops the MIG wire going to waste.
I was definitely wrong. I thought it was a drain cleaner for the MX5. So there you go.
There we go. Yeah. So I think that's answered your questions. I hope that's answered the questions that you had in mind. That's the ones that we can find that have been answered anyway. Any more questions? Drop in the comments, and I'll reply to them in the comments. So a final thank you again, as I always do. Big thank you to the subscribers. Please subscribe if you don't subscribe already. Big thank you to Wade for your help and your third hand. As a few people have noticed, I have 3 hands, with the other hand belongs to Wade, and helping out with the project and that, and setting up the YouTube channel in the first place. I couldn't have done it without him. So thank you, mate.
That's
and
right.
thank you guys for watching again.